Please bear with us. To provide a better viewing experience, we recommend you select Speaker View in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. You can also swap the shared screen with the video of the speaker, depending on your device. Do this by clicking on the speaker window or by clicking on the button at the upper right-hand corner of the speaker window that says Swap Shared Screen with Video. We purposely muted all audience members to avoid distractions and ask that you please keep your videos off during the forum. So now, let's get started. Welcome to a candidate forum featuring candidates for Rocklin Unified School District Board. I am Kathy Souza, a member of the League of Women Voters of Placer County and moderator for today's forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization of women and men established to promote political responsibility through informed, active participation in government. The League does not support, evaluate, or oppose political candidates or parties. The format for today's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will make a 2-minute opening statement. Next, the candidates will respond to questions from our audience. The questions will be reviewed by League members. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. Finally, candidates will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. If you would like to submit a question, please use the chat feature and direct your questions to the League member who is labeled Submit Questions. Volunteers will be screening the questions for appropriateness and redundancy. We will pose to the candidates as many questions as time allows. And it sounds like we have some feedback from somebody. If you could mute yourself, that would be great. Now I would like to introduce the candidates who are running for Rocklin Unified School Board. Camille Mabin. Please unmute yourself, Camille, and say hi.
Good evening, everyone.
Tiffany Sathoff.
Good evening.
Julie Levins-Hupp.
Good evening.
Michelle Sutherland.
Good evening.
And Rachel Price.
Rochelle Price, that's okay. No problem. I know, it's a tricky one. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, and thank you for agreeing to participate in today's forum. So now we're ready to begin, and we will start with our opening statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to make their opening statement, and we'll start with Ms. Mabin.
Good evening. Thank you, Kathy, very much for the introduction. As Kathy said, my name's Camille Mabin, and I'm running for the 2-year seat for the Rocklin Unified School Board. First, I really want to thank the Placer County League of Women Voters for hosting this evening's event and for your ongoing work on vital issues of concern to the public. For 29 years, I've been honored to serve on the Rocklin School Board. One of the comments we hear most often from families is, I moved here because of the schools. Well, I'm very proud to say I've been an integral part of building that school system, a school system that's led by first-class educators, a school system where education takes place in first-rate facilities, a district that has had a balanced budget, provides students with a well-rounded curriculum, and a rich extracurricular activities program. I have to say, it's kind of amazing to drive around the district and know that I've been a part of building 15 of the 18 schools, knowing the work that has gone into each of them, and continue to work with a school system that is always on a journey of continuous improvement. My husband and I have lived here for 43 years. We've raised our 4 children here, and now our grandchildren are going to school in the district. I originally thought my current would be my last term. My current term would be my last one. But with the global pandemic, hard budget times, and social and racial justice issues facing our community, I feel it's not the time to step back. I believe I have the experience, the expertise, and perspective to help our schools continue to be world-class and to meet the challenges of 2020 and beyond.
Thank you. Ms. Sathoff.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to share with our community, and a heartfelt thank you to each candidate for running for office. 5 candidates with only 3 seats means our community cares about its students. No matter the results of this election, we're one Rocklin, one community, one family. Rocklin's my home. I attended Rocklin schools as a child and am now raising my family here. With my oldest having just graduated from Rocklin High and my youngest now almost 2, I understand the varying demands of preschool, elementary, middle school, and high school, and have at least 16 more years here. So I'm personally invested in the long-term health of our schools. I volunteered as a parent in my own children's classrooms, but have also served throughout the district as needs have arisen. When Antelope Creek had a stipend for Tier 1 and Tier 2 intervention positions, I volunteered free of charge, allowing those funds to be reallocated to other school needs. I was elected to 2 school site councils, one at the elementary and one at the high school level, and was appointed to an LCAP advisory committee and a district-wide comprehensive health committee. Because of my years of serving both on campuses and on district-wide committees, I have established relationships with staff, teachers, and parents, and experience in managing our school funds, our strategic plans, and our academic success markers. For years, Rocklin has been known for its schools. It's why my husband and I wanted to raise our children here. But many things are now concerning. We have strained relationships, deficit spending, deferred maintenance, and our most recent disenrollment of 621 students. We can't wait 2 years to make a change. Something has to change now. We can't continue to tackle issues the way we always have. We need fresh vision and new ideas to tackle the new problems in front of us. My promise to you is that I will work hard, listen to your concerns, and find solutions together.
Thank you. Ms. Levens-Hupp.
All right. Good evening. Thank you very much. And thank you for this opportunity to the Women's League of Voters. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm excited that this organization has put this together. So my name is Julie Levens-Hupp. I have lived in Rocklin for 30 years. I absolutely love Rocklin. This is my home. I wouldn't be anywhere else. We raised our family here. 3 of my children went through the Rocklin school system, Rocklin Elementary, on to Springview and Granite Oaks and Rocklin High School. We loved it. It was a fabulous experience. And now I have a granddaughter starting at Twin Oaks. She's in kindergarten this year. So we're starting over and we're going to go through it all again. And I couldn't be more happy about that. I actually started my teaching career here in Rocklin. I taught at Rocklin Elementary and at Breen. When it came time to get my full-time position, I ended up in Loomis. And in Loomis, I have been teaching for 20 plus years. I've spent some time in first grade and some time in third grade, and went back and got my master's in psychology and got my PPS credential and was a junior high counselor for a while, but I am now back in third grade and love it. Wouldn't be anywhere else. On a local level, I am the local teachers union president, and I'm on the negotiations team for contracts. I've learned a lot about the budget and how the system works. I've worked very closely with the district and the board and the administration and the teachers all together. On the state level, I currently serve on the State Council of Education. I am on the Special Education Committee, where we spend a lot of time making sure that our special needs population are protected. On the national level, I am a delegate for the National Education Association. I spend pretty much all of my time with my passion in education.
Thank you. Ms. Sutherland.
Thank you for hosting League of Women Voters, and thank you for being here and taking time out of your night to watch this and learn about us. My name is Michelle Sutherland, and I'm a proud kindergarten through 12th grade graduate of Rocklin Public Schools. I have 3 children, 2 of whom are school-aged and currently enrolled in district schools. I'm a hard worker. I never shy away from an opportunity to do more. On top of my career as a behavior analyst working with special needs students in a neighboring school district, I volunteer as PTC president at Parker Whitney Elementary. It's my 4th year on the board. I currently serve as the City of Rocklin Community Recognition Commissioner, and in 2018, I co-chaired the hugely successful Measure A campaign that ensured another decade of safe and well-maintained Rocklin parks. When I take on a project, I put my all into it. People who know me know that. For example, I have increased fundraising year after year for our neighborhood Title I school. Title I meaning that we have a high percentage of economically disadvantaged kids. I take every opportunity to participate in district committees and events. For example, the LCAP Advisory Committee related to budget spending and the Equity Roundtable discussions where we examine topics like privilege and implicit bias. Inclusivity is not just a buzzword to me. I'm always striving to learn more and to do better. As a board member, I will make responsible decisions to ensure the financial stability of our district while keeping our children's education at front of mind. I will push for increased equity, meaning that we are taking steps to ensure that all of our students have access to their education. This is especially important in these COVID times, and it's critical for our students in demographic groups that are struggling. I will evaluate our special education program to see where we can better serve our students. I will also make sure that caregivers get the information they need in order to know the facts and have opportunities to be heard. I will never ignore the tough questions I'm asked because I have strong values and I stand by my positions. I'm results-oriented, efficient, and ethical, and I will work to support all of our Rocklin students and families, not just the ones online.
Thank you. Ms. Price.
Hi, I am Rochelle Price. I'm a mom, a small business owner, and a big Rocklin fan. I have enjoyed living in Rocklin for the last 20 years, and I'm currently serving as the Rocklin Unified School Board trustee after being unanimously appointed last September. It has been an honor to serve. I have worked hard to meet so many in our Rocklin Unified community, listen to their concerns, and hear their vital feedback. Because of those relationships, I have been able to seek solutions to the challenges that our district faces to ensure Rocklin remains a great community. As all of you know, our great schools attract great families. It's why we moved here 20 years ago, who will continue to make Rocklin a special place. Each day I serve, I will work hard to keep it that way. As a mother of 5 children, I have a long list of how I have served as a volunteer at my children's school, as well as being actively involved in our wonderful community. Most recently, I've been Granite Oak Site Council President and Rocklin High School Parent Club President. Please take a look at my website to see how I have contributed to our community in meaningful and rewarding ways. I would like to use this time, however, to share with you how I will continue to work hard so each and every child who attends Rocklin Unified is successful. As soon as I was appointed, I hit the ground running by visiting our school campuses, meeting with teachers and administrators, community groups, and of course, talking to parents and caregivers. This time was extremely important to me as I was able to understand individuals' concerns and also celebrate successes of our district's people and programs. I'm also a quick study, and I learned how very complex running a school district really is. And then COVID hit and our world was turned upside down. We had to find ways to meet this movement despite the setbacks and move forward with our focus always being on providing an appropriate and rigorous education for our students. As a trustee, I will continue to build relationships, be responsible with tax dollars, and vote to get our children back in the classroom as quickly and safely as possible. I have many goals, but simply put, each and everything I do is to make the educational journey the best it can be.
Thank you. Now we're ready to approach some questions. And once again, if you would like to submit a question for our candidates, please use the chat feature and address your questions to the person labeled Submit Questions. Please make sure you address the question to each candidate because they're each going to have an opportunity to answer. So for our first question, we'll start with Ms. Mabin. How do you plan to balance limited resources and to provide the best educational opportunities for students? Ms. Mabin, you might be muted.
I apologize. Have to hit the button. Over the years, we have always had to balance the budget and provide a great education for our students. So we do that by looking at both the revenues and the expenditures, looking at how those, where there is a gap, how we fill that gap either by reducing our expenditures, which is making hard budget decisions, or also at times dipping into a reserve to help us keep those. We've always strived to keep cost cuts away from the classroom. We know, though, with increasing cost around the board, around pensions, around medical benefits, around utilities, you can name it. There's a long list of things that go into that make our expenditures what they are. We will continue to strive to do our best to keep cuts away from the classroom, balance our budget.
I'm sorry, I didn't hit the go button until after you started speaking. So in interest of fairness, I want to stop you now. Thank you. Ms. Sathoff.
Great question. You know, I think it's critical that we talk about that, especially in light of COVID right now. First thing, I think we need to get our students back. The 620 students we lost, that's going to result in nearly $6 million of funding that we're going to lose in 2023. And so although we have a hold harmless right now and possibly next year, I think that's our first goal. Let's not lose any more students so we don't lose any more money. And then second, let's work with our community. Let's work closely with our nonprofits and our businesses that it's in their benefit to help us and to help our school sites. It increases home values. It increases excitement in our community. They have funding and they have volunteers that want to help serve, so we can keep our dollars focused back in the classroom. So to me, we do that by staying focused. We stay focused with things like our LCAP from 2019 had 3 quick goals. We spend our money on our students having college and career readiness. We spend our money on goal 2, making sure they have safe learning environments, and goal 3, increasing the capacity of our teachers via professional development. That's where our money needs to go. That's how it stays in the classroom.
Ms. Levins-Hupp.
All right, thank you. There's already obviously been some really great things said about how to accomplish this goal. I agree wholeheartedly that Rocklin always has worked hard to accomplish this goal. Rocklin always has had excellent offerings to the students and has always focused in on providing in the classroom and for the teachers. And we need to keep doing that, absolutely. And I think, as Tiffany said, with the loss of students and the loss of revenue and COVID and all of that, it's gonna come up. It's at our back door. And we're okay for now, but we're not going to be. So we're going to have to be creative, and we're going to have to work with our community, and we're going to have to win those students back. We can't force them back. We have to win them back. So we have to be the most attractive schools around, and we have to work to make that happen again in Rocklin.
Ms. Sutherland.
All right, difficult to be the fourth person answering a question, but like some others have said, we have limited resources here in our budget. About 85% of our budget goes just to salaries and pension alone. And so then we have this little bit that we get from that's left over from the per student money that we get from the state. And what do we do with that? We have to weigh out what is most important. And I agree. I think Rocklin has done an excellent job of doing that. And I would definitely continue to put students first. Let's use the resources that we have to the best of our abilities. Let's make sure that what we're spending on impacts the largest amount of students that we possibly can. And let's get back to that LCAP and make sure that we're providing that equity and making sure that the students who are struggling the most have that opportunity to access their education. So, looking outside of that, there are a lot of questions about, deferred maintenance, and that also just gets weighed into this big puzzle of how to really make the most of the limited funds we have.
Ms. Price.
Thank you. We definitely have huge budget challenges coming our way, and I'm really proud of the votes that we made this last year. Although they were hard, we were able to keep the cuts away from the classroom, which really is my focus, my priority. The budget is really complicated. I've had the opportunity this year to be on one of 2 trustees. So I was part of the audit committee, and I've learned a little bit about it, but it is something that we've really got to continue to be focused on keeping the cuts away from the classroom and putting the money where our real priorities are. With every student that we lose $11,000. And so when you're talking about over 600 students that we've lost this year, those are significant dollars. and our costs remain the same. And so we've really got to stay focused on keeping cuts away from the classroom and spending smart.
Thank you. For our next question, we'll begin with Ms. Safoff. You might be muted.
I'm here.
Oh.
You have to ask the
I
question.
have to ask the question.
I could talk for 1 minute if you want.
Sorry, let me reset the timer. What ways do you propose that the school district address the issue of systemic racism, both in schools and in the surrounding communities?
Thank you. Good question. Unfortunately, this is something we need to look at. You know, unfortunately, we have continued to see divide over the years, and safety of our students has to be our number one priority. It has to be. First, I think us as board members, we need to remember what our responsibility is, and it's to make sure every single student has equal opportunity to learn in a safe, loving environment. And that's my job as a school board member. Now, I need to do that by educating myself, by making sure I by no means think I'm an expert in this area. I know I'm not. I know that our students are encountering things that I may have never encountered before. But that is why I joined a local book club, to be able to learn more. I'm surrounding myself with diverse individuals. I think one of the best ways we can do this is really listen, be available to our community, and really ask, what can we be doing better? What learning environments can we improve? What educational opportunities? How can we close those gaps that continue to exist?
Ms. Levins-Hupp?
Okay, so this is an excellent question, and I would like to answer it from a classroom teacher's perspective. I really want to bring that to the board. I think being in the classroom and seeing the kids firsthand, day in and day out, and being in all of the different areas where you have personal relationships with the families of the students that you have year after year, day after day, is a perspective that the board hasn't seen in a long while. And from a teacher's perspective, we have very personal relationships with our students and our families. We have very open communication with our students and our families. And I think that communication and having that opportunity to communicate with the families that are directly affected, I can bring that to the board, bring that information every meeting to the board, what I get from the families directly and what they need directly.
Ms. Sutherland?
Okay, so talking about systemic racism as kind of this big picture issue, right? Our societal racism that exists. And I think that I am very motivated to work on this issue because growing up here and going to school here, it definitely is not a very diverse community, but it is more so now. And I think that that is excellent. And what I've discussed with my groups in these equity roundtable discussions is that we really need to address this in a way that isn't contrived, that's really meaningful. We need to bring in people of color as our speakers. We need to bring in more literature and stories about these different cultures and these different races. We need to understand that, yes, we are all the same, but we're not all living the same life experience, even if we're, in the same community together, even if we're in the same classrooms together. I think it's really important because then our students and even our families, this could be, a whole family education process, could really understand this issue more.
Ms. Price? Ms. Price, are you muted?
No. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was just saying that I love the district strategic plan around this that says that we want to establish a culture where diversity and individual differences are valued and celebrated. And the reason why I love that is because when you get to know someone, you can't help but love them. And my approach and my experience has always been that we need to continue to call for ongoing, thoughtful dialogue and find things that will unite us rather than divide us. This is really, really important work, and we have to work harder and be more vigilant at addressing it. I appreciate what Julie shared. Our teachers are on the front lines and they do such an excellent job connecting with these kids as we all work together as a community to establish a place where all children feel safe and included. Sorry.
Ms. Maben?
Thank you. Can you repeat the question for me one more time, please?
Sure. Sorry, I gotta find it again. Hmm. What ways do you propose that the school district address the issues of systemic racism, both in schools and in the surrounding communities?
Thank you for that. I think the district is, and as Rochelle said, our strategic plan lays out that we are committed to this work, that equity isn't something that layers on top of the work we do, but that it is infused in everything we do, that all children have access to the great education that is available to them. I think we need to listen to students. Last year we had an issue at one of the high schools, and one of the most powerful things for me was getting together with those families, but especially hearing from students what they need to be not only safe in school, but to be included. I think as a district, with this as our goal and the multitude of ways that we're addressing it, we will work to make this a very inclusive district where everyone has a voice and everyone has the opportunity to get a great education.
Okay, for our next question, we'll begin with Ms. Levins-Hupp. Please describe your professional credentials and experience, especially as they apply to education. And please elaborate on your occupation as listed in the voter guide.
All right. So I've been a teacher for 25 years. I have been a union president for the last 5 years. I've been on the negotiations team working directly with the school board, the superintendent, the teachers, the union, and the families for the last 8 years. I have been to many trainings on how to read the contract, how to read the budget. I have worked closely with CTA and NEA on both of those things on many, many, many occasions over the years. I've taught at several grade levels. I've been on many, many school sites. My greatest gift in all of this is my ability to build bridges, have open communication, build trusting relationships, work cooperatively. And I think all of those things are greatly needed on the Rocklin School Board in regards to its relationship with the teachers and the teachers union and families.
Ms. Sutherland?
Thank you. So my background is that I'm a behavior analyst, a BCBA. I went to college for psychology and wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, and ended up getting a job as an in-home ABA tutor for early intervention for kids on the autism spectrum. And I really enjoyed it. I started supervising other employees and said, no, I really like to be directly working with the kids. And so I started working in the area of behavioral feeding therapy. And in that time, I was able to work very closely with families in their home to help their children to meet their goals. And so I'm very goal-oriented in that. I have recently taken on a position in the Roseville Joint Union High School District, where I work in their special education department as a district behavior analyst. I also am always volunteering at my children's schools. I'm a sight word buster, so I try to spend as much time hands-on with the kids as I can. And I'm very passionate about the value of a quality public education.
Ms. Price?
Yes, I have my bachelor's degree in human, family, and child development. I have 5 kids and was really lucky to be able to stay home and not work outside of my home, which made it easy for me to spend a lot of time volunteering. And my husband used to say that His wife was a stay-at-home mom that didn't stay home. So I feel really grateful for the time that I've been able to spend in my children's classrooms and on their campuses. I do have a small photography business and a promotions business that I do on the side. And really my experience in education comes from working on the board for the last year. Has been an amazing opportunity to get to know so many of the happenings in Rocklin Unified and so many community members, the challenges and what we need to do to move forward, as well as currently I'm serving on the Rocklin Educational Foundation as a board member. So.
Okay. Ms. Maben?
I started actually my career in working at the Roseville Community Preschool when my children were small. From there, I went to the state legislature and worked for the Assembly Education Committee as a consultant. After that, went to the California Department of Education, where I was senior advisor to State Superintendent Delane Easton. Continued to work there for Superintendent O'Connell in school accountability. Spent a little time in the governor's office as chief of staff for the Secretary of Education. Then went back to the California Department of Ed to be the director of the Child Development Division. And finally, 8 years ago, went to First Five California as their executive director. First Five is a small agency that deals with health and early learning for children 0 to 5 and their families. And during all of that time, have been on the board. So,
Thank you.
sure.
Ms. Sathoff?
Thank you. Yes, I have a Bachelor's of Science degree from UC Davis in psychology with an emphasis in child development. I knew early on that I really wanted to work with children and I really wanted to make a difference, and I knew that that would be done in educational centers. And I've done a lot here in this community. A quick Google search will actually show you I do a lot of different things and I hold a lot of different titles here in Rocklin. But for the last 15 years, I have worked professionally here in Rocklin supporting families. And I've done that a variety of ways. Currently, my title is I am the program director of the Education and Family Services Department at a local nonprofit called the Destiny Community Center. I wish I had 20 words on my ballot title to describe everything it is that I do. I think my business card is possibly the longest out of everybody's. But really what we do is we provide support to students, after school tutoring, parent education, teacher trainings. We love our city, we say, by loving our students, loving our schools, and loving our teachers.
Thank you. For our next question, we'll begin with Ms. Sutherland. What is your stance on the sex ed curriculum, which was adopted by the school board?
I'm not well versed on a sex ed curriculum that was adopted by the school board. I think we're still a handful of years out on that. I think that they may be referring to the social studies curriculum. So I'm going to go ahead and answer with that assumption. I am in support of it. I am a supporter of the Fair Education Act, and I think it came about for a good reason in that it provides a well-rounded, objective view of our society and all the different kinds of people that have contributed to making our country what it is today. I am in favor of following the law and not getting into a legal issue with the state by being out of compliance and not following the curriculum as intended, and also not by walking back the curriculum and trying to replace it with something else. I don't think that we can afford it. I don't think that's the best choice for our students, and it is not a sex ed curriculum.
Ms. Price? I think you might be muted, Ms. Price.
I am so sorry. Okay, here we go. We definitely have state laws and ed codes that we need to follow, and this includes what was in the curriculum. And so when this vote happened a year and a half ago, the board was in a general agreement over all of those areas except for one. And that was that we had some discretion on what age those things were taught. I would have voted with our community. I would have voted with Trustee Counter and Trustee Susan Halden. But the good news that came out of that is really that we, as a district, developed a sensitive topics policy and clearer parental notification. And so I too am a fan of we always want to follow what our state laws are, and also we want to listen to and do what's best for our community.
Ms. Maben?
Yes, I was actually on the board when that vote was taken, and I voted to adopt the curriculum that was presented. Having worked at the Department of Ed and know the process that curriculums are gone through, this was a state adopted, was on the list for districts to do state adoption. It's been through a rigorous process. When we go back to equity, wanting to ensure that all children's families are represented, that all children are included, is important to me. And so I think the curriculum does that. I agree with Rochelle. Out of that came a policy for us to really make sure that parents had the information they needed. And from that, what we've seen is very, very little, if any, controversy over that curriculum going forward.
Thank you. Ms. Sathoff?
You know, I think it's great that when our California Ed Code is written, it's written with the intent that school board members would be elected by their community. It is up to school board members to understand California Ed Code, to implement it as written, but to understand their own community needs and to make sure that that is implemented in a way that parents and teachers and community members feel listened to, feel safe, feel accepted. And so yes, of course, it is our responsibility to meet every requirement in California Ed Code. However, I was very concerned in talking with parents of those that felt like they weren't a part of the process, that they really felt like their voice, when it was given, it was really just a box to get checked off. And so one of the things I'm concerned about is this sensitive topics policy that a majority of parents aren't even aware that exists, and yet it's actually on our website. And so my goal would be improving communication. My goal would be making sure families understand what is expected of the California Ed Code, but keeping it age appropriate, not too much too early.
Ms. Levens-Hupp?
Okay, so most things have already been said. I really do appreciate the board coming up with a sensitive issues policy out of all of this, and I think that was one of the best things that came out of it. I think the curriculum, when it became controversial, there could have been a pause, more time for parents to have a voice, but I appreciate that the sensitive issues policy now has the parents in the know before these things are taught and when these things are scheduled to be taught and any other sensitive issues that come into the curriculum. From a teacher's perspective, I am going to be downright honest with you. When we have curriculum that comes across our desks that is not age appropriate, it might get moved to the end of the year. And if it gets moved to the end of the year, we might run out of time. Second grade is too early for this curriculum, but the rest of the curriculum is excellent.
For our next question, we'll begin with Ms. Price. The Rocklin Unified School Board has prided itself in the past on spending time on district campuses, getting to know staff and experiencing the boots on the ground reality of the district schools. How will you balance this practice and priority with your personal and professional commitments outside of being a trustee?
I'm really lucky because I've spent the last year doing that. I'm the kind of person that is roll my sleeves up and get to work. And so that is what I have done. Before COVID happened, I visited campuses every Friday. I have many dozens of teachers' cell phones and I've reached out to them, checked on them during distance learning, checked on them during hybrid. Hey, how are things going? I really feel like that is how we get our best information, is by being in the trenches. Like I said earlier, I don't have a full-time job. One of my kids has moved out already. I have 3 high schoolers. I have drivers in my house. And so I really am at a great place in my life where I can balance this and give it the time and energy that it needs. And I'll be honest, it has taken a lot. And that's the kind of trustee that I am and that I plan to continue to be a hard worker. So
Ms. Maben.
Well, I guess one of the things about being the veteran of the group is I've had years to build relationships with staffs at each of the schools, with administrators, with the district office. And so while my job doesn't allow me to be in as many schools as I used to be, I spent years, as Rochelle did, visiting schools, doing music. In fact, I just had an invitation. A teacher and I are trying to figure out a Zoom we can do where I can still read some books and do some music with children now. I have grandchildren in the schools. One of my best sources is my husband, who volunteers in classrooms every week. And so we do everything we can to be engaged in a meaningful way.
Ms. Satov?
No, because the nonprofit I work for is so embedded in our schools, we actually have many of our staff pre-COVID that are able to be out on school campuses, including myself. And so I'm local. I'm right up the street. I have a flexible schedule. And actually this last year, I actually changed my hours. I'm still working full time, but I dropped down to 32 hours just so I could have more time to be out on our local parks, be out at our local school campuses. You know, just the other week, actually, a principal said, hey, I had an opening in my schedule. Could you come by in an hour? And I said, yes, I would love to. I was able to hop in the car and be there in 5 minutes. And so I think it's critical that we have board members right now that have relationship, but that we also make sure that we're able to be on those campuses. You know, a lot of times in board meetings, board members are given information, and that's important that we hear it from the professionals. But I also want to make sure that our teachers, our principals, our parents, our students have a direct line of communication with me. And that means me being on campuses every single week. And I commit to do that.
Ms. Levens-Hupp?
All right. Well, Rocklin schools are what taught me to love school campuses and love teachers in the first place. I absolutely love being on school campuses. I think it is, I tell my class every day, this is where I love to be. It's the best place on earth. And I think this is where joy happens. So I absolutely look forward to joining in on activities, especially evening activities. I really look forward to coming to open houses and performances and dances, and getting to be part of the social part of the schools. But I also am excited that our calendars aren't exactly the same. So there are definitely days when I'm not working that I can be on Rocklin campuses. And I look forward to that very much. All my friends are teachers, and I can't wait to make that group even larger. I already know many, many teachers in Rocklin, and that will grow extensively in the next few years.
Ms. Sutherland?
Okay, so similarly, to Julie's schedule, having a school schedule in a different district will allow me to, work around my schedule to be at places in Rocklin when I'm not working in Roseville. And this is a huge priority for me. I mean, for people who know me from Parker Whitney pre-COVID know that I'm always there, always checking in the office. When someone doesn't want to host an event or chair it, then I'll do it because I don't want the kids to miss out on a talent show or, something fun. And so it's important to go to these campuses and really see the different communities. Every principal has created their own little just fun atmosphere. The PBIS at every school is really great. I want to go and see the positive. I want to go and hear the concerns. I want to walk the sites and see, what are your maintenance concerns here? Because that's coming up, and, and be able to actually firsthand say, I understand this is there.
Our next question will begin with Ms. Maben. What are your views on school bonds as a funding source for our schools?
Well, I have been part of several bond elections that those that have built 2 comprehensive high schools, an alternative education center, a middle school. So I believe that when we look at how we fund or improve or build schools, certainly bonds are a way that our community has said it's a way we can do it, and it's a way that Rocklin has always said education is a priority for us as they've passed these bonds. We've also, though, put together a system for funding elementary schools through Mello-Roos taxes. And so we, a long time ago, put together a system where we have been able to build first-rate facilities at both the elementary and the secondary level using all of the tools in our toolbox to get there.
Ms. Satov.
You know, although school bonds have been beneficial in the past, if we look at just this past summer, our 2019 survey that went out, our community showed that they are not interested in funding another bond. Right now, we currently have $3 million deficit spending, and I'm a firm believer of we need to get our house in order before we go out asking more people for more money. And so for me, that means getting creative. That means first filling the schools that we have and making sure that we're full and that we're at capacity, and getting creative and looking at school sites like possibly Parker Whitney or one of those school sites that maybe has a little lower attendance, but we can theme it and we can boost. We can bring a language immersion program or an arts program. And so I'm a firm believer of yes, bonds work. They work when we have good relationship with our community. Strained relationships right now, deficit spending right now. To me, that's not the time that we're going to get a bond approved. Right now, what we need to do is we need to really dial back and get back to focusing on math, reading, writing. When our students are learning basics and succeeding, people will give money.
Ms. Levins-Hupp.
Well, I really like what Tiffany said, and I completely understand what Camille said. In the past, the bonds have helped us build schools, but I think right now is not the right time. And I think moving forward, as Tiffany said, the first thing we need to do is get our own house in order and really make sure that the money we are spending is appropriate. And not only that, as Tiffany said, we need to attract those students that are gone back into our schools. We need to bring the money that we can bring ourselves back into our schools rather than go out and ask the community for money. I think we need to earn that money. We need to earn the community back into our schools and make the money ourselves. Bonds would not be my first answer to bringing money back into our schools. I think we need to be creative and we need to work side by side with our community rather than asking them to cover what we're not covering.
Ms. Sutherland.
Okay, so when I looked over the bond information, I was not particularly moved by it at that point in time. I think there is a big point to be made with stakeholder confidence, and I think that there have been some relationship issues and, you know, some opinions that maybe don't make for a really supportive bond climate. That said, I think enrollment is a big deal. And I think a lot of this is probably COVID specific with these younger grades, TK and kindergarten parents opting to just wait for a year and then enroll their kids when things are back to being a little bit more normal. But it's possible that down the line, something like this will need to be looked at. I mean, these little repairs that don't really seem very moving right now can turn into much more expensive repairs if there are leaks and water damage and dry rot. So you have to weigh that out too. We don't want to pull too much from our students' education when these things are just going to snowball because they're very expensive.
Ms. Price?
Yeah, when I was appointed last year, the bond was really a hot topic, and there was a lot of communication going out about it. And at the time, they surveyed the community, and the community really wasn't ready for a bond. I went on a bus tour with the Chamber of Commerce, and we have a lot of facilities, some of which are aging. We have a 25-year-old high school and 2 elementary schools that are that old as well. And so just like our homes, the maintenance is ongoing and it only gets more and more expensive. And so we definitely need to take those things into account. It wasn't the time, and oh my goodness gracious, now we've had COVID and a lot of changes and uncertainty. But I think that when we get to the point of asking our community again, because we do value in Rocklin education, and I am proud of that, but it's got to be the right time and the right dollar amount.
For our next question, we'll begin with Ms. Satov. How do you plan to get the students back into this classroom as soon as possible and do it safely?
Yeah, great question. I think we have to listen to our professionals who have told us, public health has said that it's time. We are ready. We are fully equipped and ready for our students to return. And so I'm thankful that we've made steps towards that, but hybrid is not working for anybody right now. I meet with parents, I meet with teachers, school site professionals, and I continue to hear the same concerns, loss of learning. You know, right now the projected numbers are 30 to 50% loss of learning. You know, that blows my mind to think we have students that are seniors. We're sending them out into the real world. They're not getting that college career readiness that they need. And so I think it's important we listen to the professionals, but we also look at our local area. What is happening? There are school sites that are open. We listen to our parents, and we provide equally robust options. There is a group that cannot return, and I understand that. And so we need to make our online options better, increase course offerings, increase interaction times, but provide options.
Ms. Levens-Hupp?
All right, so coming from the classroom, I will tell you hybrid stinks. It is working 10 times harder than we ever have before. I know there's a group of parents who think that teachers don't want to come back because maybe it's harder to come back or hybrid is easier. I'm here to tell you that it is not. I've never worked so hard in my life, and I know my colleagues would say the same. And going with what Tiffany said, if we listen, we're in orange. Placer County has entered orange. We can come back. We can do it safely. We have hand sanitizer at every door, sanitize on the way in and on the way out. Everybody's wearing a mask. I know some people don't want masks on the kids, and I understand that, but if it gets them back in the classroom, let's start somewhere. Let's get back in the classroom. And then we can work forward from there. But again, there needs to be that robust option for those who can't come back.
Ms. Sutherland?
Well, we have kids back in the classroom now on hybrid. It's an imperfect solution to an imperfect situation and the reality that is the COVID pandemic. And we're not going to have a perfect option. But I am confident that the district is improving on asynchronous days. I think we need more consistent agreement on how those asynchronous days are handled by the teachers so that kids have some more structure to those days and have more learning. But to go back 5 days a week now, and I already made it very clear that I would have voted, as the board majority did, to stay in hybrid until the next semester, because we're not at that place yet. We're not even at a place where we can go into businesses and pack in at full capacity. And we're going to have kids packed into classrooms for hours. It's just, we're not there yet. We can make the hybrid better. It's not ideal. We're going to have to focus on the equity, but we're in a pandemic and we're not out of it and we're going into cold and flu season.
Ms. Price?
Yes, as you know, COVID has affected educational institutions around the globe, and it's been amazing to watch our teachers that have been amazing and hardworking and reinvented the wheel to do distance learning and reinvented the wheel again to do hybrid. And that has been really, really awesome to watch their efforts. You know, the question is, how do we safely get students back to school? And we're doing those things. We're doing the things that the county is suggesting to us and helping us with. We have, you know, masks and social distancing, hand washing. We're doing the things that we can because as a district, and I think as a board, our goal has always been, even though we maybe are different about how we're going to get there, our board has always agreed that the best place for kids is to be in the classroom. And so we've just got to continue to do it as safely as we can. I'm so grateful that our district has RVC. We have a great option for families that gives them the choice if they would like that.
Ms. Maben?
Yes, thank you. Well, I agree with many of the points that Michelle and Rochelle made, and really am proud, as Rochelle said, of our staff and of our teachers who, as Julie said, this is hard work, and we understand that, but they are committed to giving their very best in a situation, as Michelle said, that isn't perfect. And I was one who voted to stay in hybrid. I just don't think we're there yet. But I also just want to go back for a minute because it's been brought up several times that people are staying home or we've lost 600 students, which in truth we have. But if we look at every district in this county and around the state, they are also losing students. Many, many of them are TK and K students whose parents have decided to keep them home. We have students who have moved due to this COVID pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. For our next question, we'll begin with Ms. Levins-Hupp. Rocklin Unified School District has a very negative past in regards to special education. How should the district lead in providing excellence in education for all students, including those with special needs? And how can the district be a leader and role model for other districts in terms of its special education services?
So I'm sorry to hear and sad to hear that Rocklin has had a negative reputation in this field, because I know that there are many excellent special education teachers in Rocklin. I think that some things have happened and some systems have happened that didn't work for families. I think, though, that the teachers in the special education departments want the success that the parents want. I think the goals are the same. If there needs to be some training opportunities, some PD opportunities for the teachers, maybe, but maybe there needs to be better communication with the district and the special education department. Maybe there needs to be more opportunities for forums for parents and the special education department. It seems that things are closed right now that need to be open.
Thank you. Ms. Sutherland?
This is an area that I have some knowledge and experience with, and I've talked to a lot of families in the district that have been frustrated and upset by the special education in our district. And I think primarily the concern is that these kids are maybe not getting the appropriate education that they need, and maybe their safety is, has been put at risk. And I do agree that, the teachers and everyone works so hard, but I think we need to really nail down some really good practices and policies, best practices across the district so that there's consistency. There aren't any gray areas. If we can have really assessment-driven solutions and interventions for these kids that are legally defensible, then these parents are going to be happy. Parents don't go and pursue legal action because they want to spend the money, they want to take the time. We can do this, and we can make it better so parents want to have their kids here and celebrate the district.
Ms. Price?
Yes, thank you. I agree. This is an area of frustration. It's an area of weakness. It's an area that we definitely need to work on. I am in favor of inclusion because the way I see it for these children with disabilities, it's beneficial for everyone. It helps all of our students see different learning styles and experience the way that others think and process information. And I've had a personal experience with this as I coach the Rocklin Pony Baseball Special Needs team. And as we get up to play the teams in the league, every player gets a home run. And so to watch the other kids figure out, okay, I've got to overthrow this, or I've got to not catch this, is such an amazing experience. And this kindness that they show, I think, is something that they'll remember forever. And so I am a fan of inclusion. Our district did a study in 2016 called the West Ed Study, and it showed that we have some areas to improve. And so the second part of your question is, how do we move forward? When we know better, we do better.
Ms. Maben?
Yes, I do agree. It is an area of concern, and it's an area that we have been working on with the West Ed report, which had a series of recommendations. We have continued to put those recommendations in place, to continue mostly to monitor to see if those recommendations are actually improving student outcomes. So I do agree. I think our special ed staff is doing tremendous work. They're working really hard to serve students and families, and we will continue to do that. And we will continue to get the best professional development so our staff can be the very best they can. We will continue to educate ourselves as to best practices and what to put into place. And we'll work hard to communicate with families about the processes and how we work with their students to give them the very best.
Ms. Sathoff.
You know, this is an area of weakness for Rocklin, and I think we need to be okay saying that. As board members, we have to be able to ask the tough questions and say, what is happening? What is going on? You know, some of my first few weeks after announcing running for school board, I had families reaching out to me concerned about special education, and what they shared with me broke my heart, because every single child matters. Every single child. And we as a district are going to spend the money either way. And so I reached out to neighboring districts and really asked, how do you tackle this? What do you do? And I was saddened to hear that a lot of times it's a dollar number that people are looking at. And I don't believe that's what Rocklin has done. We have some of the best staff, the best board. But I think that we need to look at this and say, this is an issue. We will either spend money on litigations or we will spend money on resourcing our staff better, our professional development, getting them what they need. When there's an issue at my nonprofit, we create an initiative for the next year. This will be one of our initiatives.
For our next question, we'll begin with Ms. Sutherland. During this time of social unrest, what have you done or what will you do to ensure diversity, equity, and inclusion in our schools to make sure all our children are properly educated?
Well, I think this was touched on a little bit in one of the other questions, but it really is important to make sure that we're looking at the big picture, but we're also looking at the interactions on our school campuses too. And, you know, I've spent a lot of time going around knocking door to door in neighborhoods, and I've heard from some families of color where their children have been bullied and not felt safe or welcome at their schools because of their race. And those are the kind of things that can sometimes be very, difficult to address, but are very important. And again, I think it's, normalizing differences and celebrating differences and saying, let's learn about these other groups. Let's learn about contributions of, Black figures in our society and other, ethnicities as well. We can do this. We can do it in a way that's meaningful. And sometimes I do think it's, having parents and caregivers as part of the conversation too. These equity conversations that we've been having in the district, I would love to see them expanded and offered to more people.
Ms. Price.
Yes, thank you. I personally have attended the community roundtable forums on equity and privilege, and they have been amazing and so helpful. I continue to welcome conversations, and my Starbucks bill has never been higher as I've met with people and visited and really tried to learn and understand what their experience is in Rocklin schools. I have 4 teenagers. I know how hard it is to be a teenager, and yet we don't need to make things any harder. We want every kid to feel safe and that they are included and that they have the opportunities academically. I took part in our community MLK walk. I'm so grateful for the things that are happening across our community, and I continue to look for opportunities to have conversations that are meaningful and helpful.
Ms. Maben.
I think as we move forward in the last year, maybe year and a half for professional development, we have taken groups of teachers to the Museum of Tolerance, including board members, where we have really spent some concentrated time talking about how to ensure that all children have access and are treated with respect in their classrooms. I think one important thing is we really need to listen. We need to listen to students, and we need to listen to parents about their experiences in school. And I do believe we're doing that through the roundtable and other ways, through conversations, through, as Rochelle said, trips to Starbucks. But we really need to listen to our community, our students who are part of our community, and to our teachers, because they have the experience with the students to make it better.
Ms. Satoff.
Yeah, having supported public school students for many years, I've actually completed 3 rounds of diversity awareness training. And this was through the Diversity Trainers Institute. And it was phenomenal because it really helped open my eyes to many of the issues that at times I may not fully understand. And so I think that's where it starts. It starts with us as board members taking initiative and taking action and recognizing that we are a family here in Rocklin, but that there are things that each and every one of us may not fully understand. And so we need to first listen. We need to educate ourselves, be willing to learn. But I think we actually really need to focus in on these longstanding inequalities and achievement gaps that we have here in Rocklin. These aren't issues in Sacramento and LA. We have issues here in Rocklin. Really quick, our CASP scores. 36% of our students in math, they're not at standards. 29% of our students in ELA are not at standards. And when you look at that, highly proportional English language learners, highly proportional to some of these subgroups, we need to focus there.
Ms. Levens-Hupp.
So interestingly, Rocklin historically hasn't been a very diverse community. And as Michelle mentioned earlier, that's changing. And that's awesome. And we are becoming more diverse. But funny enough, the first diversity training I ever had was 25 years ago here in Rocklin when I was working in the Rocklin School District. Rocklin, I think, has always had a mind for inclusion and equity. And I think that that continues. There's no way that a school system is going to handle every problem or take care of every problem in a community. But I do believe Rocklin is and always has been committed to equity and diversity and training on how to handle that in the classroom. And from a teacher's perspective, it's hard to even imagine that it is a problem. I know it exists, but when you're a teacher in a classroom with 27 kids, you don't care what color they are. You don't care any of that. You love them all equally.
For our next question, we'll begin with Ms. Price. If you had to choose just one issue as you seeing being the key issue of focus for the district, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. That is really hard to just choose one. I think I'll just speak for what I hear the most from our community members. And this is really pre-COVID, and it's just continued actually. And that is that our community wants to feel heard and listened to, and that they can trust us as a district. And I have really spent the last year working on improving communication. And I want a website that's easy to find information. I want communication home from the district to parents that's easy and also honest and clear and transparent. And so I find that our families will trust us more, and things will go better with our relationships if we continue to improve our communication with our family.
Ms. Mabin?
I was hoping I was going to be last so I could say I agree with all of whatever you all are going to say, because it's a hard question. And I don't disagree with Rochelle that communication is vital and important. And it is something that we have for years and will in years forward continue to work on. I think the biggest, I don't know if it's the biggest problem, but it's the one I'm going to say is we're going to have really very hard budget decisions over the next few years in order to keep our education in a way that our community expects and that our students deserve. So making really well-informed decisions with all of our partners is going to be a huge challenge, I think, for us in the future.
Thank you.
No, thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. I hesitate myself because I'm not a one-ticket candidate. I think I think we get dangerous, right? When we elect people that only want to do one thing for one short term. You know, I have a little guy who's here for the next 16 years. And so I'm looking at the long run of what do we need to be looking at in the long term to make sure that we stay sustainable and we stay effective and that we're meeting the goals that our students need in order to achieve. And so I think for me, it's rebuilding trust. It really is. I think it's opening the lines of communication more. Many parents, as I talk to them and say, did you see the board meeting? They say, I don't have time. I don't have time for 6 hours. I'm working all day to provide for my family. And then I come home and I do homework. And then I have 30 minutes. One woman actually told me she fell asleep on her computer. And so what can we do to help open that communication? Maybe it's something we send out to say, hey, here's what we talked about. Here's what we discussed. But 30% of our 620 families, they moved. 70% of them left for other reasons. We need to look at that.
Thank you. Ms. Levins-Hupp?
So that's really difficult because I agree with Rochelle that communication is key, and cooperative communication is key between all the stakeholders. But I think what we really need to dig down and look at is how to fill our schools. I think for the future, for the success of all of our programs, for keeping the opportunities for all of the students that are currently enrolled in our programs, we need to have full schools. We need to be bringing in a full income for our district, along with partnering with our community to provide those programs for our students. And I just think if we don't do that, our budget deficits are going to snowball, and we're going to have to be cutting left and right, and that's not what we want. And it doesn't breed happy relationships with the teachers, with the families, with anyone.
Ms. Sutherland?
So the budget is obviously a huge issue. I'm going to try to go with one that's more uniquely to Rocklin, and I have to agree with the communication. And, I think communication with parents, and I think communication with teachers as well. And I think, the big communication breakdown, was kind of highlighted with the curriculum, and I think could have been avoided by presenting information in a very accessible, clear way. Because you can say we had it at the district office or we posted it here, but if people can't find it, if they can't access it, if they don't know about it, then you're not communicating it, right? So you have to find a way to effectively communicate. And so I think that that's a big piece. I think with the teachers, I see, in many of these board meetings where the teachers maybe just got the information that they needed to review for the union talk, and they haven't had time, or they come to the table and they seem to have different facts that they're working from. That's not efficient, and it doesn't make for good communication either.
I'm afraid we only have time for one more question. I apologize. We've gotten so many questions, but we're running out of time. So for this last question, we'll begin first with Ms. Mabin. Studies show that Black and Brown students are more likely to succeed when their teachers include those that look like them. Would you commit to attracting and retaining teachers of color for a more diverse faculty?
Yes, I think we already have said that actually the night I spent with students and families, it's the one thing students said is there aren't a lot of teachers on campus who look like me. So I think we need to do our best to attract staff that reflects the population of our schools. And yes, I would commit to recruiting teachers from a diverse background of folks. We've been so fortunate when we've posted for spaces. We've always had lots of applicants, but maybe we need to look at different places to recruit, and it's so we get a more diverse applicant pool.
Ms. Satoff.
Diversity is so important, and I think diversity can be accomplished in a variety of ways. I do see great value in making sure that our staffs are representative of our community and really making sure that we're open and diverse. But I do think it's important and critical that we be careful, that we judge candidates on their qualifications. We judge candidates on their experience, their ability to teach, what they have taught, their credentials. I think that's critical. Now, with that being said, I would hope that that is our priority, that there would be no basis of judgment, that there would be no turning down of a candidate because of lack of color or because of color. But I do think that it's more critical that we look at how do we bring diversity to our classrooms. And if that's a teacher is well qualified, great, let's do that. But I think there are other ways we can do that as well in our curriculum, in our materials, in our teaching. What are we doing? What are we representing? And what people groups are we bringing in to serve and volunteer on campus?
Ms. Levens-Hupp?
So I like the question, and I work with hiring, and I work with CTA throughout the state. And it is amazing when I go down every 3 months to LA and we meet for a weekend. There's 600 teachers there, and I'm the minority. It is very, very possible to find highly qualified teachers of color. I think they're not necessarily attracted to our area. I know the further we get up the hill, the fewer applicants we have of color. So I think it wouldn't be difficult to find highly qualified teachers, but I think we would have to seek them out. I don't think they're going to seek us out, to be honest. Just the teachers that I know and the teachers that I work with in Los Angeles and Oakland and San Francisco, they don't want to live here. They don't feel as comfortable here as they do in the cities. But I think certainly we just need to look outside of our own boundaries.
Ms. Sutherland?
Yes, I would agree with hiring a diverse group of teachers, obviously qualified teachers. I do think that we need to make sure that we're, aware of our own community and that we are a welcoming place where people of color want to live and work and raise their own kids. And so, there are other factors there too. But I think, yes, when we're talking about real meaningful ways to work on this issue of inclusivity and equity and diversity, these are the real relationships. These are, opportunities for kids to build deep bonds with people who, maybe don't look like them. Maybe they don't have people who look like them in their neighborhood. And it can really help, I think, to address some of these issues that we see in our schools as kids get older, and some of the negative behavior that we maybe are seeing.
Ms. Price?
Thank you. The good news in this is that Dr. Limoges, our HR director, is already doing this and is widening his search. And so we have heard our community and we have listened, and we know that, kids do want to see faculty that looks like them, and we do respect that. And I believe that Rocklin attracts highly qualified, amazing teachers, and I think we're going to continue to do that. I love that our district has heard it and that we're listening and that we are trying to bring diversity and richness, because that's just a benefit for everyone.
Thank you. And now it's time for closing statements from our candidate. Each candidate will have 1 minute. We'll begin with Ms. Maben. Ms. Maben, you might be muted.
Sorry, thought I turned it off. What I was saying was being a school board member requires making hard decisions on behalf of all children. It's listening to teachers and administrators, to experts, listening to students, and of course, listening to parents and our community. It's weighing all of that information and making the most informed decision you can. It's representing those children who might not have people advocating for them, even if they are not the majority. Again, it's making decisions that does what is best for students. On a personal level, I've experienced Rocklin as a parent, as a grandparent, as a foster parent. And even during challenging times, one thing that has never changed: Rocklin supports its children. So I would appreciate your vote in November and the opportunity to continue to serve Rocklin's children and their families. Thank you.
Ms. Satoff.
Thank you for this opportunity to share and speak tonight. I hope you've heard each of our hearts. Like many of you, I'm a parent that works hard to provide for my children. I understand the demands of parenting and the worry of how this pandemic is affecting all of our students. I commit to ask the tough questions, define that wasteful spending, and address the achievement gaps that we do still have here in Rocklin. I commit to work closely with Mid-City leaders who have endorsed me, such as Mayor Greg Janda and City Councilman Bill Halden, Joe Patterson, Kid Broadway, Trustee Derek Counter. This is important to hear because this shows that our city really desires to work together now. Together, we can solve many of these issues using new community-wide approaches. I commit to rebuild trust and relationship, to really listen to our parent and our teacher concerns. I'm present here in Rocklin daily. I work here. I shop here. I play with my kids at the same parks you play at. I commit to be fully present and available to you. These are your schools. And I know together we can rise above, we can join together and help because we're a family.
Thank you. Ms. Levens-Hupp.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to come together this evening and talk about the issues, the very important issues. I appreciate the excellent questions that were put forth tonight. I appreciate all of the people that are here, that are involved, that are listening, that care about this community. Rocklin is really, really special in that way. It is a place that I am excited for my grandchildren to grow up in. I'm excited that my children grew up here. It's a place that I want to be forever. I have no intention of ever leaving Rocklin. And I really have a passion for public education. I have a passion for open and cooperative negotiations and communication. I have a passion for children and protecting them and their future and giving them the best opportunity that we can to make that a bright and successful future. I think we can have a positive outlook. We can give the children that positive outlook, and we can continue to make Rocklin excellent.
Ms. Sutherland.
Okay, so because these are very politically charged times, I just want to start out by saying that the school board, just like other civic positions, are nonpartisan in nature. I think it's important to say that because that mentality helps to guide people in leadership positions to make objective decisions that are best for the whole community and kind of resist falling back on personal leanings. I believe that public schools, just in their design, are not the place for personal politics and ideologies. My goal is education. I hope that my passion for public quality education has shown through in my responses tonight. I have a history here in Rocklin. I grew up in a single parent family. We didn't have a lot of money, so I owe a lot to my success today from my start here in Rocklin, and that means a lot to me. I'm an active participant in my young children's educations here in our public schools, and I think that that prepares me well to serve here and also my career experience. So if you want to know more, please reach out.
Ms. Price.
Tonight has been truly inspiring. I find it amazing that we sit here in 2020, 100 years after women were given the right to vote. 5 women who want to spend their time bettering their schools and their community. It's pretty awesome. Rocklin Unified has it all. We have hardworking, talented, creative teachers. We have district employees who do their best each and every day. And we have parents and caregivers who work with us to get the job done. Are we perfect? No. But we have many successes to be proud of, and together we can overcome any challenges that are thrown our way. Again, I want to be sure that I communicate my commitment to work extremely hard and make decisions for our district that will ensure the current and future success of Rocklin Unified. I will do my best to make sure each and every child reaches their fullest potential in an environment that is safe and inclusive. These are challenging times with heavy and far-reaching implications for decisions made by the board. I was honored to get the unanimous support last year, and I would be grateful to continue the next 4 years.
That concludes our forum. I would like to thank the candidates for participating, and I would also like to thank all the volunteers who helped make this forum possible. We hope you found this forum helpful. This forum was being recorded. We will post it on our Facebook page, which is League of Women Voters, Placer County. We have a limit of 100 participants with our Zoom subscription, and we hit that limit. So I think a lot of people may not have been able to attend today. Please tell your friends and neighbors to check out the video on our Facebook page. Due to COVID-19, there are a lot of changes to our election process this year. If you are voting by mail, please mail your ballot early. If you are voting in person, please check your voter information for the voter service center near you. There will be opportunities for early voting. There will also be several drop box locations in various areas throughout the county. For information on how to vote, when to vote, and where to vote, please visit placerelections.com. That's placerelections.com. Thank you and good evening.